Welcome into the ONTV Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Tysick. Alongside me, as always, Joe Johnson. And we're already through week 2 of the NFL season, which is crazy. And Joe, you were gone for most of week 1. I don't even know if you watched much football. You did your draft for our auction league. Poolside with mistakes and stuff. But it's whatever. We're going to ignore it. And then I was sort of on a staycation this past week, also a little bit under the weather. So it's been a rocky first couple weeks, but this week I feel like in particular, we got a lot of scoring, a lot of fun games, whereas week 1 was kind of boring. How do you feel about the first 2 weeks of the season?
Well, unfortunately, I was on vacation during week 1, so the only football I actually got to watch was sitting in the airport in L.A. They had the Rams game on. I caught a little bit of that. And then on Monday, I caught some of the Monday night game, which was a really good game. And then week 2, at the end, I always watch football on the Red Zone channel. That's the only way to watch football. And they usually, at the very end of the broadcast, Scott Hansen does a little recap for the day and announces the number of touchdowns that we saw during the day. And that number was for week 2 was like 72 or something.
Wow.
That's a high number.
And I think if I remember correctly, in the early slate of games, there was like 46 or something like that. Or I don't remember when exactly, but I saw there was a number for 46 touchdowns at one point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot of high scoring.
Yeah.
The 4:00 games, there was only 3 of them, which was a little disappointing. They weren't as good as the 1:00 games.
Yeah, and I did really well on my picks for the 1:00 games, and then things fell apart in the afternoon. But I did pretty well in my picks this week. But it was a fun day of football, and despite it being one of the worst fantasy weekends I've had in my fantasy career, I still enjoyed making a sandwich, having some snacks, sitting on the sofa, and watching football all day. It's back, baby.
Yeah, so how do you feel early on about certain players? Like, do you feel like you were right about certain players, wrong about certain players? Something that you noticed that has kind of shocked you early on? I know we're only 2 weeks in, but we have enough of a sample size now to start analyzing things.
Well, the news broke that Joe Burrow is going to be gone at least 3 months, maybe, for the season, and that illustrates the risk in paying up for an elite quarterback or a player in any position, that there's always a risk that, you take a chance on a player that could produce a lot of points, and then all of a sudden they're done for the season. So that's why I tend to draft second-tier players. That way, if you do lose them for the season, it doesn't really hurt that much. But having said that, here we go again. Last season, as you know, I was crippled by injuries, and here we are in week 2, and I've lost my quarterback in all 3 of my fantasy leagues, J.J. McCarthy, for 3 to 4 weeks. And what did he have, a hammy or something? Or I didn't even see him.
Yeah, it was like a leg
game,
injury.
Yeah.
I don't remember, actually.
So now I'm scrambling on the waiver wire. I mean, I do have some good backups, especially
I think it was an
ONTV.
ankle. I think it was
an ankle. I do have Drake May as a backup in our ONTV league, so he's going to get the start. He's been playing pretty well.
Yeah, I like Drake May.
So that's, injuries is the X factor that can determine whether you win or lose this league. And, Tracy loses Burrow for the season. I lose McCarthy for the next few weeks. Last week we lost a couple of star players, so injuries is always going to impact how you do.
Jaden Daniels came up on the injury report yesterday. Luckily, it was in the morning, so it was before the Monday night game started. And I saw Justin Herbert was on the waiver wire. I have Jaden Daniels, so I picked up Justin Herbert just in case Jaden Daniels can't play next week. And Justin Herbert's come off to a fantastic start to the season. So
yeah, Chargers look like they're contenders. Chase, who was probably the first pick in most drafts, he stumbled out of the gates in week 1, but then this past week he showed why he's so coveted by fantasy managers. And I kind of jokingly said he's worth the $130 I paid in our auction league. Accidentally, we had to fix that. But So yeah,
and maybe as
stud's
soon
been a
as
stud.
I feel like as soon as you said that, Joe Burrow got injured, which hurts Chase's value just a little bit. Something to
I
say.
don't know because the backup came out and threw some touchdowns.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, we've seen Jake Browning in the past, and he's a serviceable backup quarterback, and they let him air it out. So I'm sure Chase is still going to have some big games, but there's just more likelihood of him turning the ball over or something like that.
Yeah, but he's surrounded by talent. So, imagine getting called up to suit up, and these are the guys you're throwing to or handing off to. And we'll see. We'll see how it impacts the Bengals. But they continued to move the ball after Burrow went down.
Right. And my biggest takeaway so far in these 2 weeks, everybody, and especially me, I guess I'm glad I didn't get them in more leagues than I did, but the rookie running back class that we were so excited about, everybody was hyping them up, one of the best running back classes we've had in a long time. They all stink so far. And that's not talent, but they just have not played well or not gotten the time.
Watching that Raiders game, I have Genty in, I think, all three of my leagues. And he didn't look bad. The Raiders looked bad. The offensive line looked bad. But there were several running plays where he looked like he was going to take it the distance. And he would bounce off tacklers and spin. And it was an impressive 5-yard run, So let's give some of these guys a chance to see what they can do. But, we were texting each other the other day that, when you factor in quarterbacks, wide receivers, and everything, the rookie class is pretty good so far. Mm-hmm. There's some rookie wide receivers who are really starting to show their stuff.
I was going to say, wide receivers, they always creep up on us. Even when we don't think they're the best wide receiver class, they always, a couple rookie wide receivers always kind of pop up.
And the thing that amazes me, when you compare a rookie running back to a rookie wide receiver, a rookie running back can kind of ramp up by just taking the ball and looking for a hole and, not necessarily following a playbook or whatever. A rookie wide receiver has to know the routes and all that. And so to succeed as a rookie in the NFL as a wide receiver, to me, is more impressive than a running back.
They typically also just have less opportunities in general, especially if those
spreading the ball around.
If that rookie running back is the lead guy, they're typically going to get more touches throughout the game than what a wide receiver would get.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting. I have Orion Hampton, who was just awful last night. It was also partially because of the Chargers. They decided to play Najee Harris again for some reason. He didn't look very good. And then Orion Hampton, he would do the same thing as Genty, where like every once in a while he'd have something that looked good, but then he just didn't get a lot of playing time. It was weird. I also have Travion Henderson, who's on the Patriots. He was pretty involved in week 1, got you a lot of points with limited touches. And then this week, he only got the ball 5 times, and so he barely did anything. And Ramondre Stevenson actually had a really good game.
Yeah. Have you heard any updates on Igbuka? Because I came home, turned on the game, and saw him getting taped up, and I'm like, oh, no. He had scored a touchdown, but it seemed like he wasn't used very much after that.
I don't think he was hampered by any means. I know they did tape him up, but I didn't get anything as far as an injury notice later on. And I saw him, I believe, in the end of the game. They threw it to him again in the end zone.
Well, that's good news.
But I know that Baker Mayfield just kind of struggled a little bit down the stretch throwing the ball.
Yeah, but they sure put it together on that last drive.
They were running the ball.
Looked really impressive.
And they were running the ball really well, which helped. So, yeah I'm not sure. But that's an interesting situation to watch.
Yeah.
Especially when Chris Godwin may eventually come back in a few weeks. All right, so let's look at the standings now in the ONTV League. Let's get into the specifics of the league. And have to give Becky a shout-out. First place, 2-0.
Oh.
Atop of the standings.
She's on a mission after last season.
Yeah, and funny enough, who's in second place? But Sammy. The bottom 2 finishing teams from last year are now at the top. Now, again, only 2 weeks in.
His tutor must be paying off.
But their teams are playing well. Becky is, I think, second in most points? So even if, Ian is 1-1, he has technically the most points. So if he was in a tiebreaker, he would be winning, but that's not the case. But Becky is right there in points with the top people. And so Sammy is a little bit low on points, but his team just looks better in general. Every time I see his team on paper, I'm like, that looks like a good team. Whereas last year I had question marks around certain roster spots on his team and, things like that. But
as you know, my draft grade was an F.
Yeah, and so far.
They kind of knew what they were talking about because my team is struggling after 2 weeks.
Yeah, right now they're proving you right. And everybody else is 1-1. Ian and Tracy have a lot of points. I'm not too far back. Marie finally felt the wrath of Breece Hall. She was yelling when she looked at her scoreboard this week, seeing that Breece Hall really struggled. The Jets in general struggled overall, but she was like, she's like, tell Joe he can have Breece Hall. I said he already swore off Breece Hall.
He's dead to me. And I almost regretted that last week because he had a good game last week. But this week I was like, yep, that's why.
Right. So then you and Malik are at the bottom. Malik's team just week 1, he was a part of the teams that did not play well. I think, what was it? Nico Collins had like barely any points in week 1. AJ Brown's been struggling, who I thought was a steal for Malik at the time, and things like that. But I think his team is still good. Again, we're an 8-league team, so everybody's team is going to look relatively good. It's just, are you going to make the right roster moves at the right time? That's I think, has become the fun thing that I enjoy about the 8-team league is your roster is strong, so you have to almost somewhat play the matchups in a way that you wouldn't in deeper leagues where it's just like, okay, these are my best players. I'm playing them each and every week.
Well, we're going to get to my game at the end because we had the lowest point total. But the problem that you face when you have like a star-studded lineup is whether your bench explodes or not, and that's kind of the dilemma I faced this week as my bench blew up. So we'll talk more about that in a second.
Yeah. So we'll get into the individual matchups now. So this was similar to our auction league that I was a part of this week. The top scoring team, Tracy, had 170 points, basically 171, while Ian unfortunately had to take the loss while he scored 160.
The second most points.
The second most points of the week.
And this is Tracy starting Joe Burrow, who only produced 7 because of that injury.
Right.
So she led the league in points despite losing her QB.
Yeah. So, Lamar Jackson had a solid game as usual. I feel like, coming off a spectacular season last year, before that being an MVP. He's just picking up where he left off. He just doesn't even have to do a whole lot, but he's just scoring touchdowns, getting points. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, oh my gosh.
Game of his career. First 3 TD game in his career.
Crazy. And I basically let Ian get Amon-Ra St. Brown because I thought about pulling the same move that he pulled last year and taking him 1 overall. Now, Jamar Chase made up for it this week. They weren't too much different, but it's just funny how it happens like that. We give Amon-Ra St. Brown to Ian, and he blows up once again. And then for Tracy, CeeDee Lamb had a really good game.
Nakua had the long rushing touchdown. Did you see that rushing touchdown?
At the beginning of the game.
That was impressive.
Yep, and I was against Nakua in my other league, so that was rough. But I had Jonathan Taylor in my other league, and Jonathan Taylor had a huge game, 165 yards on the ground.
His biggest game in a couple of seasons.
Yeah, 2 catches for over 50 yards. He also got a receiving touchdown, and it was just one of his best games. And he's been dominant so far early on in the year. So he's been a big boon for her. James Cook, who I am always skeptical of being on that Bills offense. It's hard to know who's going to score.
Yeah.
But last year, James Cook got a lot of rushing touchdowns. And then this week, he had 2 rushing touchdowns again. I think he had 1 rushing touchdown in week 1, but also putting up 132 yards. He just exploded this week. And then funny enough for Ian, Justin Jefferson didn't do very well, but that's because of somebody else that's on somebody else's team.
When you look at the point difference in this game, 10 points basically, you can't help but look at Jefferson, Jones, and Henry, and man, just an effort from any one of those guys could have been a game changer. But
right.
Yeah.
And then, like, anytime you're having a high scoring week, it's got to be in sort of your quote unquote special teams. Both kickers for both teams. Brandon Aubrey is obviously incredible. He put up 22 points, and we don't have any extra points for kickers in this league. So that tells you how much kicking he did.
And he's single-footedly won that game. He sent it to overtime with a 60-yarder and then won it in overtime. It's so impressive.
Yeah. And then Baltimore's defense got a touchdown for Ian, and then Detroit's defense, played pretty well against Chicago as well. Yeah. They both had players last night. Tracy had Jacoby Myers, who had a solid game, 12.8 points. Quentin Johnston getting into the end zone once again after having a big week 1. So he's kind of been an early surprise on the season already. But he's been very solid. So both of these teams so far are looking really good, even though Ian did technically lose. Then for the next highest score, we had Becky, who's in first place, as we mentioned. She put up 152 points. Marie had a really, really bad week, 107 points after she kind of dominated in week 1. But both quarterbacks, 2 of the top quarterbacks in the league, both struggling.
11 points each, yeah.
This kind of goes to your point about the risk of spending up on quarterback. Mm-hmm. And we've seen this with Josh Allen in the past. In week 1, Josh Allen blew up, had a huge game, rushing touchdown, things like that. And then this week, they just dominated the Jets, and he didn't really have to do anything. James Cook did everything on the ground. They just methodically won a football game. They still won 30-10. And then Jalen Hurts, the same thing. Like, they just run the ball. People are calling them a boring offense, but they're just winning games. They beat the Chiefs again, and Jalen Hurts barely had to do anything. He got another tush-push touchdown, which saved his day a little bit.
Imagine if you're not really watching football on Sunday and you see that the Bills put up 30 points and you're thinking, Allen put up some points. And then you look at your score and he has 11 points. That's a bit of a shocker.
Yeah, and again, like, his rushing yards are saving him. He had 59 rush yards in this game, so that's almost 6 points just there in rushing. So between both Allen and Hurts, that is what's kind of keeping them afloat. And then last night, or Sunday night, Drake London had a really bad game. Both offenses struggled. It was abysmal to watch.
Yeah.
Plus Drake London fumbled, so he only had 5 points, whereas Malik Neighbors, on the other hand, was in that shootout with the Cowboys, and Russell Wilson just kept throwing it up to Malik Neighbors and kept coming down with it. So he finished with 167 yards, 2 touchdowns, had a massive game.
Russell
so
Wilson,
exciting.
I mean, the announcers were saying that Russell Wilson looked like his peak Super Bowl years.
That was his career high, 450 passing yards.
And not just Neighbors benefited, but
Wan'Dale
Robinson, who I have in one of my leagues. I've always been a fan of his, but the wide receivers ate during that game, and so Wilson, I pretty much wrote him off, but he's going to be competitive. And
I don't know how long he's going to start, because if the Giants are still losing, they have a rookie quarterback waiting in the wings that I'm sure they want to start.
Yeah.
So it's risky to, like, I know some people are going to mention Russell Wilson as being a pickup in waivers, but it's just one of those risky ones that you might be able to hold on for a couple weeks maybe while these injuries are going on, but just something to watch out for.
I am kind of excited now. I have tickets to the Giants-Lions game, so I'm kind of fired up for that now. That should be a shootout.
Right. There should at least be a lot of points put on the board. The Giants' defense is actually, they gave up a lot of points, but their front seven is really good. They put a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks. Their secondary is just awful. Then Devontae Adams has looked really good.
They called his name a lot of times during that game.
Yeah, he was actually out. He was targeted more than Puka Nacua in this game.
Wow, that's crazy.
So he's kind of taken over the Cooper Kupp role, and he's better than Cooper Kupp is at this point, even though they're about the same age, I believe. But Devontae Adams he seems a little bit more spry. He's still really good getting off of the line, which I think helps him a lot. And Stafford was looking his way a lot, especially in the end zone. So he's been a pleasant surprise.
Stafford impressed me. I mean, just when you think maybe he should hang it up, because he's had a couple of rocky seasons, but watching some of those plays, he had some touch, and he would just drop it right into the basket. It was impressive.
Yeah. And then on the other side, Jackson Smith and Jigba, he's been solid for Seattle. Sam Darnold, they've looked pretty good. And then two of the top running backs, we got Saquon Barkley and Jahmyr Gibbs. Just kind of another day at the office for them, both getting in the end zone, getting solid rushing yards. Jahmyr Gibbs only rushed the ball like 10 times or 11 times. He averaged like 8 yards a rush, which was crazy. And Alvin Kamara actually having a good game, as the Saints didn't look awful. Chase Brown doing all right. Sam Laporta all right. Neither of these tight ends were super exciting this week.
Are there any tight ends? Even Brock Bowers was
last
just
night,
okay
again,
last night.
I feel like the Raiders really struggled last night.
Yeah.
There's a couple tight ends. I guess I glossed over Tracy's rookie tight end, Tyler Warren. He's actually really exciting for the Colts. And he's kind of been almost like their top receiver in a way. But for Becky, we got Tyreek Hill back in somewhat Tyreek Hill form, having a good game, over 100 yards. Marie finally swore off Breece Hall. After 2 weeks, she's already tired of him. DK Metcalf saved by a touchdown in that game. And then the Chargers defense, once again, coming up big. They've been really good through 2 weeks so far, giving Becky 13 points. The one thing that I do remember Marie saying is she did leave, Rome Odunze on the bench, who blew up against the Lions for 32 points, basically.
Ooh.
So she was a little upset about that one. Debo, she wasn't sure she would have started, but definitely seeing Rome Odunze go off made her a little upset. And then Becky, she has Josh Allen. This is the typical thing we always say, especially in an 8-team league. She has Josh Allen, the best quarterback in the world. You don't want to sit him, and then you see Jared Goff just have an outstanding game on your bench.
Painful.
Yeah.
I always try to soothe the pain when I have a quarterback on my bench or any player on my bench blow up, where you go, well, at least he's not on some other team, or the team I'm playing.
Right.
So I'd rather have points on my bench than have him scored against me. But still, that's painful. Every time Goff connected with St. Brown in the end zone, you got to be going, oh, no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of brutal sometimes. But, she came out with the win either way. Yeah. So that was exciting. The next highest score was me, and I put up 140 points against Malik's 122. And there we go. I lost my screen for a second. So, Jane Daniels, once again, like I said, having another day at the office, similar to those running backs in the previous matchup. 200 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. They did lose to the Packers, who are looking really good as a defense.
Kind of scary.
But, Jaden Daniels just getting it done. Patrick Mahomes having a little revitalization, at least fantasy-wise, because he's all of a sudden running the ball a lot.
Yeah, but also, he had that long bomb of a passing touchdown that was a bit of an anomaly. Otherwise, it was a fairly mediocre game for him, but all of a sudden, bam, what was that, 60, 70 yards, something like that? So.
Yep, late in the game, too.
Yeah.
And then, like we kind of mentioned, Jamar Chase getting back to form, 14 catches, 165 yards, and a touchdown. Man. Most of that after Burrow went down, too. So that does make me feel better moving forward. And then a couple of guys that got early touchdowns and then did nothing late. Nico Collins started off the game really quickly with a touchdown for Houston. And then he finished with 3 catches, which I think he got all within the first quarter or the first half or something like that. Same with Emeka Ibuka. He came out getting another touchdown right away after he had 2 touchdowns in his opening week. And then he only finished with 4 catches for 29 yards. Like I said, I feel like Tampa Bay's passing offense kind of struggled throughout the game, especially towards the end.
Let me ask you this. After 2 weeks, who's the guy, Evans or Ibuka? Because Mike Evans has had 2 pedestrian games in a row.
I think the hardest thing is this is one of those scenarios, and it comes into play of why I think Chris Godwin also became such a superstar, especially in fantasy at some point, that last night Mike Evans was just hounded by Derek Stingley by the Texans, and he's one of the best young cornerbacks in the league, and he basically shadowed Mike Evans the entire game. And I even saw them like late in the game when you knew that Baker wanted to go to Mike Evans because he's a 6'4", big-bodied frame for a touchdown, they were doubling him in the end zone.
Yeah.
And so that just leaves this rookie sensation wide open, and it just helps him. Now he's very talented. Egbuka is one of the most talented receivers we've seen in a while.
Yeah.
But it just helps elevate him quicker. And I'll be honest, like, it's going to happen probably next week as well. I want to say, was it Denver that they played? Oh, no, they're playing the Jets. So Sauce Gardner is going to be mostly on Evans. I don't think he shadows as much as Stingley does, but that's just something to watch out for. And right now, yes, I would agree. Egbuka is probably the better guy to have for fantasy just because he's getting the easier quote-unquote matchups.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier. Brian Thomas Jr.
Disappointing. He had a lot of drops.
Yeah.
When he should have taken that game into his hands, and they were forcing the ball to him, he couldn't hang on to it, and it was very frustrating because I have him in another league, and I'm like, come on, catch the ball.
And he was a borderline first-round pick this year, so that's tough for a lot of teams so far. Him and Trevor Lawrence just not really on the same page.
And there's a big red Q next to his name, so keep an eye on that.
I'm curious what that is. I don't remember anything. I mentioned Orion Hampton had a rough game last night. Only had 3.5 points. Luckily, it didn't come down to that for me. On the other side, Bijan Robinson, huge game, 143 yards, couple catches. Only thing he didn't get was into the end zone, but he made up for it. I did pick up Travis Etienne just before week 2. I think it was waivers of after week 1, and he's been really good so far, surprisingly, after he kind of lost his job last year towards the end of the season. And then Chuba Hubbard, he's been super consistent in the last 2 years, it feels like.
Yeah.
And he's just finding ways to score. He's been great. Trey McBride, he's been Mr. Consistent as well. A.J. Brown, as I mentioned, man, he is just struggling because the Eagles don't have to throw a lot. They're not being contested. So we'll have to wait and see on him if they get into a more competitive game.
I seem to recall, I don't know if it was the ONTV draft, but I remember you questioned that I had passed on A.J. Brown, and you're like, surprised you would have passed on him. Now, I'm not claiming to be, psychic or anything, but if I would have drafted him and started him, that might be even worse off than I am now.
Yeah, and I wanted him just before he was auto-drafted by Malik's team. I really wanted A.J. Brown. I would have loved that pick. But, right now, the talent, he's way better than what he's showing fantasy-wise, but it's just, again, they're just winning games pretty easily. They don't have to do a whole lot. Brock Bowers, as you mentioned, kind of struggled last night. He was coming into the game hurt. Didn't look like that mattered. I just think, again, the Raiders they did not look good at all. Denver's defense, who was supposed to be really good, they gave me 0 points. They lost to Daniel Jones, who all of a sudden has revitalized his career as well, which is making a lot of people unhappy, I think, for the most part.
Yeah.
But have you heard his name? His nickname?
No.
Indiana Jones.
Oh, no.
So,
that's funny.
For Joe being a movie buff, I had to throw that one out there. Tedoroa McMillan, my guy that I got in every single one of my drafts, had a solid game for Carolina, 100 yards, 6 catches, even though I benched him in my auction league, which almost lost me the match. Luckily, I lost the match, and it didn't matter that I benched him, but man, it would have hurt if I didn't. So other than that, bench-wise, Malik's bench was crazy. He had Tucker Kraft, who started the week off really crazy. Jalen Waddle, George Pickens getting into the end zone, both having 17.8 points. DeAndre Swift having an okay game. And then for me, I didn't really miss anybody except for Jalen Warren, I guess, but I wasn't going to be starting him. He's just kind of a bench guy if I need to. And then, like I said, I did pick up Justin Herbert for this week potentially, if need be. And then finally, we have the match of the week, as you like to call it.
WEAK.
And Sammy narrowly gets the win as, J.J. McCarthy looked bad even before he was injured. He had 3 fumbles. Luckily, he didn't lose any of them, I think.
Turnovers.
He had 2 interceptions and just did not look great.
He did lose a fumble near the end of the game.
He did?
So he had 3 total turnovers.
Yeah.
So that's 9 points. Or no, what do we have? 2 in this league? 2 points for a turnover?
I think so.
But Yeah, it was ugly. I was hoping that maybe he can put something together like he did last week.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fun comeback in week 1, but this week, after week 1, people are saying, "Oh, maybe he is the guy," and after week 2, they're like, maybe he's not the guy." Like football fans and experts are so fickle.
Yeah.
But now he's out 3 to 4 weeks, and what a disaster! What a disaster this is turning out to be for him. So, I got I dropped Penix before the week 2 started, and he looked pretty awful too. And I got Baker Mayfield on my bench, so he's going to be my starter going forward.
That's not too bad. And then, you got a touchdown out of T. Higgins, a touchdown out of Jameson Williams, kind of saving their days quite a bit. Jameson Williams getting 2 catches for 108 yards. That's pretty much the Jameson way.
God, when he was just standing there all by himself past the secondary, that was just a thing of beauty.
Mm-hmm. And then for Sammy as well, like Ladd McConkey, he's starting to look not talent-wise, but as a fantasy draft pick, he's starting to look like a bust because they're using Keenan Allen a lot that they re-signed this year.
Yeah.
They're starting to use Quentin Johnson towards the end zone, so Ladd McConkey's kind of in a weird spot, whereas last year he was the guy.
Yeah.
So curious to see where that goes. Marvin Harrison Jr. continuing to struggle. Sammy's been trying to get the hookup with Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison. Not working out that great right now. And then Christian McCaffrey, man,
bounce
he's
back,
just so good.
Comeback player of the year.
I hope so, because I did draft him in my auction league and I got him for cheap. I know people are always nervous of the injuries, but man, if he stays healthy, he's the best running back in fantasy. So I still love that draft pick by Sammy. And then Derrick Henry.
That's got to be the biggest shock of week 2.
It's like Cleveland is his kryptonite. He's had his other worst game in the last so many years is against Cleveland. And it was like the same number. It was like 20-some yards or something.
2.3 points from Derrick Henry, who in a lot of cases was a first rounder. And it's shocking to see that kind of output.
And the hardest part too is that there was a point where they had, I think, 3 goal line attempts from like right at the goal line. And I think they rushed it once with Derrick Henry. They got stuffed. And then the next 2 times they tried to throw it and they missed, I think, or something like that. And so he could have easily gotten a touchdown there. Never did. We mentioned Ashton Genty still struggling as a rookie, still promising, but
he just, I like to use this analogy. I just bought a 5.0 Mustang, and when I'm sitting in slow traffic, I feel that it gets angry. Like, come on, let's go. And that's what Genty looked like yesterday. Like, he wanted to bust one so bad, and he had some really impressive short runs, but the O-line just wasn't giving him the holes.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Hopefully the O-line can get it together and he can succeed, but he may struggle behind this offensive line.
Right. And then Bucky Irving, he's kind of picking up where he left off
He's fun to watch.
last year. The one like nerve-wracking thing, though, to me now, last night, Rachaad White getting the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah. No help.
A little bit weird.
And I think he almost left the game. I think he got hurt earlier in the game, and then he comes back and scores the TD.
Yeah, because week 1, Rachaad White was kind of coming back from a preseason injury. But in this game, he actually touched the ball 10 times, I believe. Makes me a little bit nervous about it, but Bucky Irving is too good to keep off the field.
Yeah.
But just something to watch out for. TJ Hawkinson, I tried to tell people not to draft him all year, but some people didn't listen.
I should have started Ferguson because I have Hawkinson possibly in all 3 of my leagues, and I started him in all 3 of my leagues. And one thing I'm learning this season is don't play the same guy in all 3 leagues, because if they tank, you're going to lose all 3 leagues.
Right. And see, that was my point. Like, when we go over preseason stuff, you like to try to keep some of the same guys throughout your team so that you're not rooting against yourself in other leagues. But the only problem, the reverse side of that is if you have too many of the same guys, when they all do bad, all your teams do bad. Whereas if you diversify, you can at least have a chance. It's a hard thing to figure out.
I can tell you,
The best
Ferguson
balance.
is going into the starting lineup this week.
Yeah. Devon Achane, he's been fantastic. He doesn't even run the ball very much, but he had 92 receiving yards. He's almost like what Christian McCaffrey was for the Panthers back in the day. And so if Tua stays healthy and he's throwing to Achane, it's going to be a recipe for success. James Conner, he's starting to struggle, starting to show his age a bit. And then your flex is Kyron Williams. How do you feel about him 2 weeks in? Kyron's just a guy I always avoid, and I know you love him. But he just always makes me nervous because of these kind of games.
It surprises me to hear you say that because last year, if I remember correctly, he scored touchdowns in like 10 games in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you be down on a guy that gives you a touchdown every week? This season is not quite working out that way. Rams are pass heavy, which you would think would free up the run game. But, people are a little down on Kyron.
And then, similar to Bucky Irving, Blake Corum steals a touchdown.
Yeah.
Late in the game, too, I think.
Yeah.
So that's always annoying.
So, luckily we do have 2 flex spots in this particular league, and I'll probably keep Kyron in there, but, what is it, R.J. Harvey?
Yeah, R.J. Harvey.
He didn't do squat.
Yeah, he hasn't really gotten the role that we thought he might early on in the season. He's still somebody I would maybe hold on to just because that role is valuable, but J.K. Dobbins has been playing pretty well as the lead back.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's hard to hold on to a guy like that in an 8-team league. If you're in a deeper league, I would definitely hold on to Harvey. But yeah, he would be on like maybe your chopping block.
Well,
we get down the line.
He's going to get relegated to the bench. And
right.
I have Shaheed on my bench. I have Scatabo on my bench.
Scatabo, he might take over for the Giants running backs pretty soon.
Yeah.
Tyrone Tracy did not look that great last week.
Yeah.
And Scatabo looked really good. They started implementing him a lot more. He might be somebody that slowly starts getting more and more work.
Yeah. So one of those 2 guys are going to work their way, if not both, into my starting lineup.
Yeah. And then again, when is Addison back? Is he back this week?
Was it a 3-game suspension? So
I can't remember
think
if it was
he's
2 or
back in
3.
week 4. I think he's back in week 4.
But either way, something to watch out for as he's going to come back fairly soon.
I just, it's hard to put all my eggs in the Vikings basket now with the McCarthy situation. So
yeah,
I might just have to see what that backup does over the next several weeks. But it's going to be really hard, even if Addison comes back, to put him in the starting lineup until you see what's going on.
Right. Now we'll go into a little bit of waiver wire stuff, just briefly. Again, we always mention we're an 8-team league, so our waiver wire is going to look nothing like anybody else's. But I think at least the quarterback side, it's a possibility. So if you have one of those quarterbacks that are hurt, Caleb Williams probably isn't available, but he's a good pickup this week for our league against some Dallas, who gave up a lot of points to the Giants of all teams last week. Even though the Bears haven't looked that good, I still think, they have the potential to put up some points at least. Drake May, did you mention him before the podcast?
Yeah. No, I think I mentioned him. I have him on my bench in another league, and I regret not starting him, and he looks like he could have a solid season.
Yeah, he was a guy I wanted to draft in a lot of leagues if I didn't get a top-tier quarterback, which, funny enough, I did get a top-tier quarterback in most of my leagues. But Drake May is a great option. He runs the ball a decent amount. Again, Jake Browning, he's out there. He's out there in every league because nobody's going to pick up the Bengals backup unless you're in some crazy league.
Unless you throw Burrow on can you put him on IR or no?
You should be able to now because he's going to be out.
So if you can put Burrow on IR, pick up his backup, and
I think
for the best.
He'll probably be solid just because they're going to air it out. And then Justin Fields also still injured. Jordan Love is on our waiver. He's a possibility as well. But the actual flex spots, I dropped Calvin Ridley because, again, 8-team league. Tennessee's offense just isn't working right now. I needed a roster spot to grab Justin Herbert for the meantime. Juwan Jennings is out there. Javonte Williams, he's actually been really good for Dallas so far. He's been their lead running back. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Bill. Everybody loves Bill, but he's struggled so far. But maybe he's going to get more work now that Austin Eckler is out for the season, unfortunately, with an Achilles tear.
You know what? when we did our preview show, our preview podcast before the season started, correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to recall saying that Eckler will not see the end of the season. I'm pretty sure I said that.
So that's your fault.
Well,
And he's one of your guys.
I think the cards were on the table that
man.
I think he's at the end of his career, and I'm surprised we'll see him back next year.
Yeah, I do think he might be at the end, unfortunately. But I think he'll be in the either the content creator space or he'll be on television because he loves. Not only does he love football, but he loves fantasy football. So he might become a fantasy football guy, which would be fun.
Yeah.
Keenan Allen's out there. Man, I might pick up Keenan Allen now that I picked up Justin Herbert. We'll see.
There's a guy I want to talk about, and sometimes I hate saying this stuff on the podcast because I don't want anyone else jumping on these guys. But there's a guy, again, I watch football on Red Zone, but there's a guy I watched on Sunday that was a lot of fun. And I'm like, ooh, I like this guy. He kind of had this swagger, and I'm talking about Franklin.
Troy Franklin, yeah. He's a good waiver wire pickup for deeper leagues, too, because he's not going to be available. He was a rookie last year, had a lot of talent coming into the league. A lot of people thought he was going to come out last year and be better earlier because he has history with Bo Nix. They both played together at Oregon. But this past week, he looked really good. And, he's exciting. He's quick. I would say if you need a wide receiver, he's definitely one to look out for.
There's another guy a couple spots down. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. Iomanor.
It's like Alec Iomanor or something like that.
He looked really good, too.
Mm-hmm. And then depending on how you feel about, his charges were dropped. He was in a little bit of a domestic violence dispute. Quinshon Judkins, he looks like he's going to be the lead running back for Cleveland. So if you need running back help, he might be available. So he's a good option. A guy that you formerly liked, Christian Kirk. He's supposed to be back for the Texans. Maybe that'll help their passing game. He'll probably be their slot guy. So that's another option as well.
You know who else looked good on Sunday? It doesn't look like he's a free agent, so I'm wondering what team has him. But Nick Chubb on his new team looked pretty impressive.
I want to say Tracy has Nick Chubb.
He had an impressive touchdown run on Sunday.
I don't know if I'm just thinking things or what.
Somebody has him because
yes, it's Tracy. Tracy has Nick Chubb. I just remember that was being like one of her last draft picks or something.
And you know me, I've always liked Chubb. And when I heard his name and saw him get into the end zone on Sunday, I'm like, oh, man, that's my Chubb.
He hasn't been too bad for them. But, again, Houston's offense has just been struggling, so that's the hard part about it. That's kind of our waiver wire guys. Again, our leagues are so much different than what a standard league would look like, at least on the waiver wire. But those are some of the guys, and some of them will pan out. All right, let's go to the previews of Week 3, and we're going to start with the highest total, which is Marie and Sammy, actually. Marie projected 137, Sammy projected 148 as the top guy this week. Let's see what they got. Jalen Hurts supposedly projected for 20 against the Rams. Drake London playing Carolina. Jackson Smith-Njigba against New Orleans. Jahmyr Gibbs on Monday night against Baltimore. That should be a fun game. And then Christian McCaffrey playing Arizona. So Sammy's going to have a lot of people in that late Sunday game. He's got Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., Christian McCaffrey. He's also got Ladd McConkey going in a 4 o'clock game. So he's got a lot of afternoon slate guys with his one Thursday night guy, Devon Achane. He only has one Sunday afternoon game. All the rest are primetime games. He has Monday night with Derrick Henry, Sunday night with Travis Kelce. Wow. So Marie can get off to an early lead, but Sammy has all the comeback potential, which is always scary to deal with.
That's what I thought in Week 2, and I had half my squad playing on Monday, and I still lost.
Yeah, so I think Marie's going to need to make up some lineup decisions. I'm assuming she's going to sit Breece Hall this week. I would definitely suggest to play Rome Odunze again, playing against Dallas. That should be an easy matchup.
I do love her team name. That's awesome.
We'll see if Deebo Samuel makes it into our lineup. I don't know who she would replace. It'd be risky to replace DK Metcalf because he's been pretty solid, but that's an option. Sammy, as far as lineup decisions, I don't think he really has to make any.
No.
If Cortland Sutton had a better game, I would have benched James Conner, but Cortland Sutton didn't do anything this last week, so yeah, it'll be curious. I don't think he has any real decisions to make.
No.
But that should be a close matchup. That should be a fun one. The next highest total, I believe, is going to be Tracy and Malik. They're both projected 135, so that's going to be another tight matchup.
She's forced to start Bo Nix because of her injury.
Joe Burrow. So we'll see if Tracy decides to pick somebody up or if she's going to stay with Bo Nix. Bo Nix has been solid. He's been a very good quarterback, so I don't really think she needs to, but always curious what people are thinking, because my opinions always feel like they're so much different than most people. Brandon Aubrey going up against Chicago, projected for 9 points is just crazy as a kicker. You don't really see that very often. I'm curious, too, if she's going to pick up a defense, because Detroit's defense against Baltimore does not have good history. I'll say that much. I love my Detroit Lions, but this is a tough matchup no matter how you spin it.
Yeah.
She is sitting Zay Flowers at the moment.
He's been solid. He's like their number one guy.
Yeah, so I think that's her only lineup decision. It'd be hard to bench anybody. Looking right at it, I would maybe slot in Kenneth Walker into my running back spot and sit David Montgomery, but that's hard to do when you want to watch the Lions on Monday night.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't blame her if she kept him in. And then Malik's side, don't think he really has any lineup decisions to make.
Unless that Thomas injury is serious, but.
Oh, right. And then he could talk about putting Tucker Kraft in over David Njoku, because David Njoku's been splitting time with a rookie at tight end. So that's a possibility. Other than that, I think his lineup is pretty much set. Maybe you think about sitting A.J. Brown, as crazy as that is. But they're playing the Rams, so the Rams might actually push them for once.
And you know that the moment you sit A.J. Brown, he's going to blow up.
Right. It's a risky sit to sit somebody that talented. And then, all right, the next matchup would be Becky and Ian. Becky going for a 3-0 start. Sammy also going for the 3-0 start against Marie. So, yeah, both teams can stay undefeated. Let's see. Josh Allen on Thursday night kicking off the week. That's going to be, it always is scary, especially if on Thursday night, Josh Allen, again, they destroy Miami and they don't do much and he doesn't score much.
Yeah.
To start off with like a low point total from your quarterback is always nerve-wracking. So hopefully that goes well for her. And then Ian's got Monday night people. He's got Lamar Jackson and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So that's huge comeback potential just with those two players. So that's really scary. Justin Jefferson getting Carson Wentz at quarterback this week, but they're playing the Bengals, who give up a ton of points. They're not a very good defense. James Cook also on Thursday night. He's up against Miami. That's a good matchup. So we'll see what happens there. Aaron Jones has a questionable tag on him.
Yeah.
Only projected for 4.4 points, so I'm assuming he's leaning towards being out. So Ian's going to have to look to replace that. Malik Neighbors playing on Sunday Night Football. Devontae Adams going up against a tough Philly defense. Saquon Barkley also going up against the Rams, who have been a pretty good defense. So that's kind of a tough matchup. Got a couple players in that game, though. Chase Brown, I don't know how he's going to do with the backup quarterback, because if their offense isn't as good, if they struggle a little bit, their run game's going to struggle because their offensive line isn't very good. So curious to see that. Tyreek Hill going up against Buffalo. Also another tough one. As I stated, Mike Evans going up against the Jets. That's a tough matchup for him. But I like that they have a lot of players in the same games. So they'll be watching the same games as their point totals go up, which is fun. On Ian's bench, he has Josh Jacobs on his bench.
Yeah, I was going to say, put him in, put Jones on the bench.
Interesting. Did he bench Josh Jacobs last week? That wasn't the case, was it?
I don't know.
Interesting. Maybe he's playing the matchups at the moment, and then now this Aaron Jones injury came out. But interesting. Another close one. And then finally, we get to play each other.
Yeah.
I'm projected to win at the moment, 137 to 120. Do you have any lineup changes in mind? You don't have to tip your cap or anything. You making any waiver wire moves? Is this your final lineup I'm looking at?
Well, It is for now. First thing I do on Tuesday morning is get in there and put in my temporary lineup so I don't forget.
Right.
Obviously, Mayfield is going in with my McCarthy quarterback going to the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I'm swapping out tight ends, putting in Ferguson, benching Hawkinson. Harvey might get relegated to the bench in place of Shaheed or Skadabo. So,
right.
So we'll see. Not quite final, but it's getting close.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. I think I'm pretty much final. I might put in a waiver claim. I haven't fully decided just yet. And then I'm really balancing whether I want to sit Hampton this week or not, just because he's struggling. Denver's defenses, they've been okay. They haven't been great. They just gave up a huge game to Jonathan Taylor, so I don't know if that means anything or not.
Right.
So it makes me nervous to sit him, but also nervous to play him. Feels like a lose-lose situation for me. And I may be picking up a different defense this week because the Chargers have just looked really good.
Yeah.
So I might be changing my defense out. I don't know if I'm going to fully drop Denver. I'll have to look at their schedule. But other than that, I think I'm pretty set in stone where my lineup is. If Jaden Daniels all of a sudden looks healthy, he may get the start over Herbert. But Herbert's been so good, I might not even risk that.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Yeah, he's been solid.
So, yeah.
All right, good luck.
Those are our week 3 matchups, and we'll see who can stay undefeated, who can get their first win. Can Joe or Malik get their first win? Can Becky or Sammy stay undefeated? That would be wild if Sammy starts 3-0 after losing so many games last season.
Yeah.
Quite the turnaround, and make any waiver wire moves you need to, of course. Hey, start sending out trades. Let's have some trades. That's
this early, huh? That's interesting.
Hey, I'm always open. My offers are always open.
I tell you, if I start out 0-3, the trade offers.
Yeah,
will start to
I would
happen.
say that's typically the thing. Is like if you start off losing, you just need to make a change. Just refresh your mindset. Get some new players in there.
Yeah.
It's hard when you're winning to try to make trades, but even then, sometimes look at your bench maybe and see if there's any pieces you want to swap out or some depth. Things that you might want to reassure as you get later into the season. I already start thinking about that stuff. I don't think I have too many trade offers in the wins right now, but I'm always thinking about it.
The thing about bench depth is we're not at the bye weeks yet.
Right.
And when those bye weeks roll around, you need that bench depth.
Yeah.
So
especially when we're already seeing injuries pop up a little bit, it makes me nervous. So just always be ready for it. But good luck to everybody in week 3, and we'll see you for week 3's recap next week.
All right, good luck.